Pranams to all sadhakas. The teachings of Sri Raman Maharishi. First one. The human actions bear fruit according to the will of the Isvara, the Creator. Actions themselves are insentient and cannot therefore bear fruit. Results of the human actions pass away, but yet they leave seeds which cause human beings to fall into the ocean of births and deaths. Therefore, human actions do not bring about emancipation or liberations, but actions performed by human beings in the spirit of service to the God and without any attachment purify the mind and show the way to liberation. Worship of God is done with human limbs. Repetition of names of God is done with the help of human voice. Such a repetition is better than worship. Meditation on God is done with a human mind. Such meditation is better than God's worship or repetition of God's name. This statement is true according to the experience. This eightfold universe can be regarded as the manifestation of God. Every mode of worship of God is meritorious. Repetition of God's name loudly is better than hymns of praise. Better than such a loud repetition is repetition in a murmuring voice. Better than such murmuring of God's name is the repetition thereof in an audible manner. Much better than interrupted meditation is the unbroken meditation in a steady manner, like a stream of water or like the continuous flow of oil. The attitude of he is I is superior to the other attitude, namely he is not I. If one transcends all thoughts through intense devotion to God or reality, and if one identifies himself with that reality, one is considered to be a supreme devotee of God. The source of one's being is in the heart. Observation of the oneself in the heart is the consummation of the practice of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Birds are caught and held within a net. Similarly, by holding the breath, a man restrains his mind. During such a restraint of breath, the mind is absorbed in its source. The restraint of breath is therefore a device intended for such observation of the mind. The mind manifests itself as thought. The prana manifests itself as action. These two, namely mind and prana, spring from a single root. After springing out from the same root, they become separate mind and spread out as branches of trees do. Observation of the mind in its source has two different forms. If it is observed temporarily, the mind revives. Such a temporary observation is called the manolaya. If the mind is observed once and for all in its source, it does not revive. Observation of this kind is called manonasa. One who is practicing breath control for the sake of observation of mind in its source fulfills one purpose only if one's attention is fixed on the sources of one's mind. The venerable yogi, whose mind is thus extinguished, rests in Brahmin. Such a accomplished yogi has attention is fixed on the source of one's mind. The venerable yogi, whose mind is thus extinguished, rests in Brahmin. Such a accomplished yogi has no more karma to do, because he has attained his true state of being. When one draws one's mind from external objects which can be experienced by one's senses and meditates on one's own effulgent reality, one is said to be truly wise man. If the mind is uninterruptedly investigates in its own true nature, it discovers that there is no such thing called mind. Such constant investigation is the shortest path for all to attain the true wisdom. The mind is merely a bundle of thoughts. Of all such thoughts, the root cause is I or me. Therefore, I or me alone is the mind. From where does this mind arise? One must raise this question within one's own mind and discover the answer within oneself. If such investigation is done, the I thought vanishes. This method of investigation is Jnana Marga. When the I thought vanishes, the reality manifests itself as Aham. The reality is infinite. This will be experienced by one who pursues Jnana Marga. The Aham, I am, is the true important of the I thought, because one does not cease to exist. Even in the deepest sleep, in which state there is no thought of I thought. The bodies, the senses, the mind, the prana, vidya are all insentient. They are all unreal. The Aham alone is real. There is no second being experience the truth or reality. Therefore, that which is real is itself the awareness which cognizes itself as I am. Creator and creatures both exist. They are one in essence of being. The difference between the two consists of differences in form and in the extent of knowledge. Reality is only one. When an investigator sees his real Swarupam and discovers that he transcends his upadhis like the body and so forth, the state of this is the state of his is the state of creator also. In the state, the creator is experienced to be no other than the self within him. To know the self means to be established in the self. There are not two selves within. To abide in this state is Atmanishta state. The true knowledge is beyond relative knowledge and ignorance. When one is truly awakened, what is there to be known? When one's true Swarupam is realized, one discovers that one has neither beginning nor the end. In that state, there is unbroken awareness and untainted happiness. Abiding in such a state of awareness and happiness without any thought of bondage or liberation is the same as remaining in God's service. He who abides in that state is Jivan Mukta, getting rid of egoism and avoidance in one's true state is Astar Tapas. Ramana declares this self. The self, though the obvious, is yet hidden. It is hidden due to the mistake made in identifying it with the body and so forth. Such mistake identification is the result of various thoughts. Thought can be ended by ending out their basis or sources. All thoughts are strong on the simple I thought. Well, this I thought, if you do so, all other thoughts are quashed. There is no use of knowing other things, ignoring the self. If the self is known, all others become known. Hence, self-realization is man's primary and sole duty. That self is the pure consciousness or awareness of everyone. All that is required to realize the self is to be still. It is, in fact, the self or consciousness that enables all men and women to function in different ways. So, Atma Vidya is easy of attainment. This self is never new. It is eternally the same. This self is grace. This self is light. This self is spirit. It is also called God, who dwells within. This God is Prasada. At all times and everywhere, it dwells in each of us. All that a person has to do in order to become aware of it is simply this, namely, he should not confound himself with this extrovert mind. If he succeeds in extracting himself From this extrovert mind, he will abide as self. Such obedience is called grace. If you realize yourself as spirit and overcome your present education with your gross body or activities, you will see that the world is spiritual and you will thereby become free from your subtle and gross bodies. In the state, there will be no limitation for you. Where is the world in the absence of limitations? A man's dreams a dream body and experiences a dream body. It is falsified when he wakes up. His gross body is falsified in a dream state. None of these bodies is therefore real. Each is real for a brief period and false at other times. That which is real must be real at all times. It must be real forever. The I am consciousness is the same as aham. This conscious is present in every man and woman in all three states of waking, dreaming and sleeping. The states are false. These states are of the mind. But in the above mentioned I am conscious is changelessly present in the three states. This mind abstracts the vision of man's true nature. Man's nature is the infinite spirit. If one searches for the mind, it will vanish by itself. Then the true self automatically appears and it appears as being unblessed. This true self need not make any further effort. It is beyond both knowledge and ignorance. One who abides in the state is a mukta and he is said to dwell in the kingdom of God. The sentence quote over all taken from the published books of Raman Maharishi. They explain the meaning of some of the verses of Upadesha Saram. They are easy to understand. Of course, they can be devitalized in another order by other scholars. In whatever order they may be arranged, they throw light on the Sanskrit verses. The present writer concludes this chapter by remarking that every seeker of truth will realize the grandeur and uniqueness of Sri Ramana's teaching. As the sage has declared in the last verse of Upadesha Saram, such inquiry or Atma Vichara is tapas, and obedience in oneself is the greatest tapacharya. That is the sum and substance of the teaching of Sri Raman Maharishi. Okay, masters. Thank you. We shall meet again in the next video.